Hi, I'm Reverend Chris Rothbauer. I'm coming to you here at my home in Auburn, Alabama today in the middle of the coronavirus social distancing to talk to you a little bit about my journey as an agender person today for Trans Day of Visibility. It's been a very long and rocky road, and I've written about it in the past, but I've never recorded this as a video, so I thought, what a perfect time to do so. See, I was born um, with a certain set of genitals that encouraged a doctor to write a single word on my birth certificate that seemed to determine for many, many years how I would be treated socially and professionally, and it never really felt right. I remember as a kid loving to play dress up. Like, there's photos of me dressed up in my father's hunting gear holding his shotgun by my side. But what no one knew is that I equally wanted to dress up like princesses. I wanted to put on makeup, I wanted to put on lipstick, I wanted to make myself look pretty, and gender was all just a game to me. Lots and lots of people remember me from that age as absolutely loving He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I was also watching shows that were more femininely marked, like Care Bears and uh, Strawberry Shortcake and shows like this. So while I was playing with He-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures, and I certainly did, and I certainly loved them and still love them. Oh my god, if I had those figures now, I would still totally be playing with them. I was also playing with Cabbage Patch dolls. And I remember loving going over to one of my cousin's house. My cousin was only a year older than me, and she had all the girls' toys like Barbies and Easy Bake Ovens, and I wanted so bad to play with them. Oh my god, I hated that I didn't get to play with them more often than I did. But society being what it was, I was pressured both overtly and covertly into seeing myself more in the light of being a man. And that meant that I was not allowed to play with certain toys. I was not allowed to watch certain shows, or at least admit that I liked them without ridicule. That meant that my life, in some ways, was predetermined. The things that I would like, the things that I would not like. And it felt very, very stifling. I didn't understand it. And it got worse when I got to school, because when you put 20 kids in a room who've also received these messages about gender from home, from their youth, and they decide they have to enforce that because if it's true for them, it also has to be true for me, right? So I was ridiculed for showing my emotions more than boys were supposed to show. I was ridiculed for not being as much into team sports as um, I was supposed to be. I was really ridiculed for a lot of different things, for a lot of different reasons that I was just not very good at being a stereotypical masculine man. And so, in that regard, much of my childhood was me trying to figure out a balance between trying to pretend to be something that I was not, while at the same time trying to also give myself care with things that I love. And in some regards, I turned to religion originally to try to fill some of those holes because I found a group of people who told me my solution was just to accept God into my life and that it would make it all better. And so at the age of 12, I became a Christian and a very self-hating queer person. I was having all these feelings that the church was telling me were sinful, and that the church was telling me I shouldn't be the type of person that I was. And it was very, very nerve-wracking, to say the least. So I went through middle school and high school, and there are so many pictures that I've seen that I don't even like looking at them, because what they look like to me is a child who's trying desperately to be someone that they're not in order to gain the approval of other people. So, many of you know my faith journey. I left the church at the age of 19 because I couldn't reconcile what they were teaching me about my queer identity with the reality that I felt inside of me. And so I started coming to terms with my sexuality, slowly but surely. But something still didn't feel right. There is a lot of femphobia, a lot of transphobia within the gay male community. So I experienced a lot of shaming. And so I tried really, really hard to be a masculine gay man. And it really didn't work out for me either, any more than anything else did, but I didn't know what the alternatives were. I knew transgender people existed, but I thought they were all binary, trans men and trans women. And I definitely knew that I didn't feel like a woman inside, but I didn't know what to make of how I did feel inside. And it was only in the early 2010s, after I enrolled in seminary, that I started meeting non-binary people for the first time, and really hearing their stories and their struggles and how they didn't feel like they belonged to either the male or the female boxes. And it was liberating in many, many ways. It was liberating. But even then, I still felt like I was pretending. I remember being in my first ministry internship, and it being suggested to me that I should wear a suit and tie to make the people in my congregation more comfortable with me as a male minister, as a person of ministerial authority within the congregation. And it did not feel right. It did not feel right at all. There's a picture of me that surfaces every once in a while of me at a protest wearing a full suit and tie. And I look at that person, and the word that describes me is inauthentic. It did not feel right inside. So I talk about my story, about what it took to get to where I am today, but what more was there? Well, something got me to where I am today, and number one, it was my faith journey. It was discovering Unitarian Universalism and discovering ways of being religious that were not oppressive to my queer self, that gave me the opportunity to explore, to figure out who I am and where I wanted to go with that, what I wanted to do with that. It was so saving for me, and I still credit Unitarian Universalism with being what really allowed me to come into full fruition of who I am. I also credit meeting genderqueer people and non-binary people during my formation as a minister, and hearing their stories and hearing them talk about coming to terms with who they were. And it was a little thing in the back of my head that would not stop, that there was something more, that it wasn't just sexuality. And so it was in 2015 while I was in a internship in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I had really gotten to have some conversations with our non-binary office administrator there, and really started hearing about the possibility of other identities and what that could mean. And so when I went to General Assembly that summer, I picked up a copy of Kate Bornstein's My Gender Workbook. It was a used copy at Powell's Books in Portland, Oregon, I'll never forget. And I remember sitting on the trolley on my way back to the hotel where I was staying and just eating up the exercises in that book and realizing that the way Kate Bornstein was writing, it was giving me liberty to figure out who I was without any preconceived labels of who I should be. And so I slowly started experimenting, starting during that General Assembly when I had my nails done and painted for the first time. But I started coming out, first to close family and friends, then to the congregation I was serving at the time. And it's been such an amazing trip. And I know that as a Unitarian Universalist minister, I'm in sort of a position of privilege. I have the privilege to be able to live my authentic self without very many people questioning it. I have a steady job, a steady paycheck, and that's not true for all of my trans siblings today, even those within Unitarian Universalism. So I do feel very fortunate, and that's why I do talk out so often, is because not everyone has it as good as I do, and I want that to change one day. So on this Trans Day of Visibility, there are so many people that I thank the good people here at Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship who accept me for who I am, who accept the leadership of a trans minister and don't ask me to be anything other than what I am. And I'm so privileged to have served them for the past year. I thank the trans folks who paved the way in Unitarian Universalism for me to be able to serve today. I know it has not always been the case that a trans minister could serve in our faith and serve without being questioned, to serve without having it be suggested that they were less of a minister for it. And, I just thank everyone who's been so supportive of my journey so far. My only hope is that I can pay forward that support and that I can help other people who are struggling with their gender identity out there see that it is possible to be an authentic person. Today, I don't identify with the label of male at all. The label that I found that most describes my journey is agender. It means that I don't have a strong sense of gender either way, gender or any way. Gender just seems kind of like playing make-believe to me. And that to me is who I am. And I couldn't be anyone else, even if I tried. And that is my wish for everyone watching this today, that you would find who you are and that you would live that authentically. Even when the world tells you that you can't, even when they tell you you're a snowflake, even when they tell you that you're wrong, you look them in the eye and you tell them, I can't be anything other than who I am. And I pray that you find your community, your people, who are willing to stick by you through thick and thin, who are willing to accept you, who are willing to give voice to the authentic person you are, because you are beautiful. Whether you're a cis man or woman, whether you're a trans man or woman, whether you're genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, or agender, you are beautiful, just the way you are. And how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? Thank you all. Happy Trans Day of Visibility, and may you all find the courage to be the authentic person you are. Amen, and blessed be.